Hi, everybody.
Hi, welcome back to the Justice and Faith Show. I'm Faith, and this is Justice. And this is season 2, episode 1. And those of you who have followed us since we started a couple months ago, thank you so much. But if you're new, if you're like a new subscriber or a new follower, like, comment, all that kind of stuff. If you are just seeing us for the first time, you're in for a treat. We are talking about a juicy subject today, so why don't you lay it out for them?
All right, so one of the things that we found out over the course of doing these podcasts is that certain things hit and certain things don't. So when we set out to start doing the podcast, we wanted to reach as many people as possible. So we kind of look at the analytics of the numbers of what's going on, and one of the ones that was most successful was sex. So we're like, well,
Shocker.
we don't want to do podcasts on sex all the time. That can be a hairy subject for a lot of people, but it's also one a lot of people don't talk about. Mm-hmm. So in the confines of marriage, there's a level of safety between me and her because we're married. Mm-hmm. But then we also understand how important it is to have these open, candid conversations. So we're like, well, what also is important other than sex is just the idea of monogamy. Mm-hmm. Me and my background that our past listeners and subscribers know about the background and things that I've done. And so when it comes to monogamy and it comes to sex, a lot of times infidelity starts because of outside sexual factors. That wasn't the case with me, but that's a lot of the ways that it starts. So we wanted to ask questions or get questions from people to see exactly how they feel about sex, monogamy, and things like that. So we wanted to kind of hit on the subject of sex because we know it's a popular topic, but we also wanted to hit on the subject of monogamy because people don't really talk about it. We get into relationships, and a lot of times monogamy is one of those things that's just like, oh, well, you just expect it.
Yeah.
And it's not fair because if we just started dating tomorrow, it's just like, oh, she's not thinking I'm talking to other women. But if she finds I'm talking to other women, she's like, well, you're a dirtbag because you're talking to other women. It's like, oh, well, I never said I wasn't. Mm-hmm. So, but most people, they don't really have those kinds of conversations and get in that kind of dialogue because most people don't want to feel like second, third, fourth, fifth banana. You want to feel like, hey, we're vibing, we get along. Why are you talking to anyone else?
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that we understand the idea of monogamy and really just simply the idea of monogamy within marriage. It's all relationships, but monogamy within marriage is incredibly important because it's a person that you're supposed to spend the rest of your life with. And there's a process to being monogamous for the rest of your life because biologically, and people do not want to hear this, biologically, we're not necessarily designed for one mate for life. We have the ability to rationale and logic our way through it, but there's a reason why you can be attracted to other people. There's a reason why some people tickle your fancy and stuff like that because attraction still exists. My wife, if she looked at somebody like, that's an attractive guy, I can't get upset with that because biologically, there's things to be attracted to, and same thing as far as women. What the problem becomes is that if somebody acts on those attractions because what you're attracted to is not I want to be with them, but maybe I want to talk to them, and those are footholds that can lead to other things. So people have to really understand what monogamy truly is, and the idea. Not even want to say the idea, just the perspective of when you're with somebody and like this is the person that I'm with. You have to really be willing to understand everything that comes with that person because they're going to put some stuff on you that if you're not willing to deal with it, if you're not willing to take into account their needs and their wants and stuff like that, monogamy becomes even more difficult.
Yeah, definitely. Like, one of the things that has always confused me is like the tradition of the men and women going away to a strip club or doing something crazy on their bachelorette or bachelor party because they're like, this is my last day as a single person. And to me, the last day as a single person was before you started dating that person. You haven't been single since you started dating that person. So why now all of a sudden do you need one last night as a single person? Like that's something that never really made sense to me.
That is a very tricky thing too, and it's one of those. That's a very I won't even call it a gray area, but that is a very important thing to bring up because people are like, yeah, you get one last hurrah, and it's like you get one last hurrah
like you should have been monogamous with this person since
so it's like, so does this mean you get one more opportunity to be with somebody else, which is not the truth because like were you cheating during the whole like you're engaged,
right?
So it's like, well, I'm gonna do this before I'm married, and some people they look at it from that perspective, and there's no judgment here, but I'm just saying, just understanding what these things really look like. So when you decide to be, and it should be a decision to be in a relationship with a monogamous person, in a monogamous relationship. It should be a decision, not something that's assumed.
It should be a conversation.
Yeah.
Just to make sure everyone's on the same page. Because, like he said, if you just start dating someone and you don't have the conversation, it doesn't mean that he or she is not dating someone else. And that could be a problem for one or both of the parties, or one person could be assuming that you're monogamous, the other person is assuming that you're not, and come to find out, oh, you've been dating someone? We've been dating for the past 2 months and you've been dating someone else? Like, that could be a problem. So, just having that conversation, like, whenever you feel like you need to, like, if you're like, I'm monogamous, I want him to be too, like, make sure you have that conversation. It's an awkward conversation sometimes, but it's one that needs to be had, because if he's not willing or able, or vice versa, if she's not willing or able, then you need to know that up front so that you can kind of see if you want to still continue just stay casual dating or friends or whatever. So it's something that you want to get out of the way as soon as possible so that there's no, like, dragged out hurt feelings and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that was dangerous with us. Once again, background, anybody who hasn't watched our podcast or listened to it before.
Yeah, you need to go watch them and listen to them because it's a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, but what happened with us was essentially we were trying to get to know each other, and then I made the fatal mistake of saying that I'm technically still on the market. She's like, well, I want to be your girlfriend. It wasn't that immediate, but it was pretty close to being that immediate. And I was pissed. I reacted very poorly. I remember sitting in the car because I didn't want to lose her. But I didn't have her. Like, we weren't in a relationship, but I didn't want to lose her. Like, everything that I had done up to that point was designed to be with her in the future, but not at that point, because I knew I wasn't ready. I was just fresh out of a relationship with my child's mother, and I was like, I'm not ready to be, especially with the damage that relationship did to me. So when that happened, I was freaking out, not because I didn't want to be with her. I was freaking out because I knew I wasn't ready. Yet and still, I did it anyway, and, you know, that was a catalyst for a lot of the problems in our relationship moving forward. Mm-hmm. And what happened is, it was pretty much me saying, like, hey, we're not monogamous because we're not together.
Yeah.
It was pretty much that, but at the same time, it's like, if we were together, we would have been assumed to be monogamous, just because that's how I always looked at it, and just how she looked at it as well.
Yeah.
But we would have never had the conversations, just like we like each other. We spent our additional time together. So it's like, well, when else are you seeing anybody or talking to somebody? But if I told her, like, she was a virgin, if I said, I have another girl that I'm seeing, what's logical assumptions and conclusions? Like, are you having sex with her? And if I said, yeah, I am. Do I think she's going to stick around even though she's not having sex with me? No. Because it's like, I like you and I want to be with you eventually, but right now, I understand that you're a virgin because you're saving yourself for marriage. I'm not. Like, that's not my perspective.
And we actually just talked about this, like, a couple minutes ago, about how when we were dating and, like, engaged before we were married, we weren't having sex, but we were still technically monogamous because he wasn't having sex with anybody else either. Like, and that was something that I expected, because I was like, yeah, you're not having sex with me, but you're not going to have sex with anybody else. Because if you do, then this is all cut off. Like,
and because I wanted to be with her, it wasn't as difficult as anybody that knows me or me, I would assume, because looking back at it now, I would think it would be more difficult. The second time around, definitely, it wasn't going to happen.
Right.
And that's kind of how we ended up back to this point, because I actually said, I was like, long distance, not having sex, because even though we had sex and been married before, she was like, well, that's we're married, we're not doing it again. And I was just like, this doesn't make any damn sense. So, for me, what it comes down to is that you have to be very self-assured of the person that you're with. You have to be very open and vocal, because people just have these assumptions. So when you're married, the assumption is monogamy. So in the realms of so we've had a few questions. Shout out to the people who sent out the questions. I was expecting questions via Facebook and easier ways to reach us. There's people who reached out from different states that sent in questions, and I enjoy that. Thank you. I appreciate it. We appreciate it. We enjoy comments and questions.
Yeah,
because
so we're going to get into some of those questions.
Yeah, it allows us to explore. So we're going to get into some of those questions. So I forgot where I was going, but whatever. We'll circle back around. So one of the questions says, I'm a 45-year-old man. A few months ago, I was contacted on Facebook by an old fling from about 10 years ago. It was simple, hi, how are you? I replied, we became Facebook friends. And our relationship back then was pretty much fun and like sex related. Good times, no marriage talk, nothing really serious. We dated for about 5 months, broke up, saw the people, got back together, and repeated that cycle. So I'm married now, and this just happened a few days ago. Is this a problem or not?
I would say if you're uncomfortable telling your spouse, then yes, it's a problem. If you have no problem being like, hey, I have this person that I was dating back in the day, and she reached out to me, and I want to talk to her because whatever reason, if you're okay having that conversation with your spouse, no, not a problem. But if you feel like you need to hide it, yes.
I feel like this is kind of dangerous because I could do it both ways. I would be comfortable having a conversation, but I would also be comfortable saying hi and just kind of deleting everything because I'm like, that's no big deal. But there's conversations that have to happen between you and your significant other before these types of things happen to kind of know boundary lines. It's depending on the significance and how long.
Right, you have to know what is considered cheating to your spouse. So,
and it's not even about cheating, it's about inappropriate interactions.
Right.
So this is not cheating. To me, this is not even inappropriate interactions, but the fact of the matter is, if I had an old fling or somebody reach out to me via Facebook or Messenger, I don't think you'd be mad at me. You'd probably just be like, it's depending on the level in which I tell you. Because I told you, this happened a couple days ago, and I told you, like, somebody reached out to me. You're like, but I said, no, it just happened.
Yeah.
So if it was...
That's my kind of guideline on everything is basically what I just said. If he feels comfortable talking to me about it, and he's not hiding anything, he's not deleting anything, he's not acting shady, like like that kind of stuff, I can kind of get a vibe by how he's talking about the person and that kind of thing, then I don't consider it cheating. As soon as you feel the need to start deleting things, to start locking your phone, to start doing stuff on the down low and not being up and up, that's when it becomes cheating. Well,
like I said, like I would be prone to delete this stuff because a lot of people I have on block and things like that. But it's not because I'm doing anything wrong. It's just and one of the things, and we talked about this, right? So I have a theory now, in which I call people sharks, thundercats, things like that. And pretty much when I say sharks, it's a problem. So the reason I would delete things now is because I don't want to have any kind of lingering temptation. I don't want there to be somebody who reaches out to me and says, hey, how you doing? And everything's fine on the up and up. And then 3 days later, me and her are not in a great place. And I'm like, hey, how are you today? And it's like, the hell am I really reaching out to you for?
Yeah.
I'm reaching out to you because I'm looking for something. I'm not looking to step out on my marriage, but I'm looking for something. And that could be a foothold to something else. So it's like, you know what? I want to delete every inkling of being able to get in contact with you. It's not about me not sharing with my wife or being afraid or anything like that. It really has to come with me still working on myself and understanding my strengths and weaknesses and not trying to test myself. I'm not at a point where I want to test myself with certain stuff because I understand that depending on the day or the time, just because I'm bored or I'm like, oh my goodness, I need something additional, and I know how to navigate around it, I just don't want to. I have no desire to. And there's some people that you have to understand about yourself. When I was younger, I was like, oh, well, I'm strong enough to deal with this. They're like, well, you're talking to your ex. Your ex is, back in town or something like that. And I'm like, I'm good. They're like, no, I'm not comfortable. I'm like, good. I'm not doing anything. And then, you get caught in situations and all of a sudden you're like, oh, crap. I didn't plan to do these things. And it's just like, I'm not at a point where I'm just like, it's not about plans. It's just you understand yourself to the level that you need to, and it's a respect issue. And it's kind of like what she said about you understand if you're not willing to say something. So if I'm just like, well, babe, like she reached out, like she wants to see me, like how do you feel about that? And she's like, no, you're not saying her. There's nothing else to be said. There's no, well, but no. Because it's a respect thing. And for me now, it's a respect thing. For a lot of people, it's a respect thing. So it's not about how you feel. It's about how your significant other feels. So I'm like, I have no problem. I'm just like, hey, this person hit me up this kind of way. How do you feel about this? And she's like, well, see how it goes. See where it goes. It's like, okay. But if it's like, if she says later, like, okay, did you respond? I say, yeah. She's like, well, what was the conversation like? And I'm like, she wants to do some things. It's like, I got to kill her? And I'm like, no, but that's on me to be responsible and just making sure that the lines and the boundaries are clearly there, which is something that I really try to do now in our relationship is make sure that those lines are clearly outlined, because I haven't in the past, and to make sure that we stay safe, and I stay away from these sharks. I can't. I'm not a strong swimmer to begin with, but I said I keep my ass on excuse my language, but I'm like, I keep myself on the sands, because I'm just like, I don't want to tempt fate. I don't want to test faith, because I think at this point we got guns now, so I think she'll put a hot one in me if I messed up now. So it's really about having the conversation with the person that you're with, and just making sure that you're being open, honest up front. And it might be tough, it might be rough, and you might say, well, why can't I be friends? And you have to have that kind of, because it's like, all right, well, it was nothing serious, you didn't talk marriage, but why is this person reaching out to you now? Right. And then you might ask, like, was the sex good? Like, how much fun did you have? Was she able, and then women, and I'm saying women, I think men do it too, but all of a sudden it's like, oh, she messaged you, let me look at her pictures. Let me see what she looks like. Oh, she's short, blonde, athletic build, and you're brunette, tall, got a little weight on you, and you're just like, she still look good, and it was just a fling, like, so it's just like, you can't get out of it, even if it wasn't something serious, because that's just kind of how it goes. So you err on the side of caution, be like, how you doing? It's like, I'm married now, I'm happy, I hope you're doing well, God bless. It's pretty much what I keep it at. Yeah. I think it's always say God bless. I don't care if you're atheist, say God bless. Just it ends things on such a good note. It's like, you know what, I hope you're doing well in life, God bless.
All right, so I think we covered that question. So what's the next question?
We also have a few questions that have just kind of come up, and just random comings and goings with people that we kind of jotted down too. So somebody asked, how much time do you have? How much time do you expect to spend with each other?
How much time do we have?
And so this, let's just, how much time do you expect? This question kind of comes with the caveat of like foreplay. So it's just kind of like how much time do you have when you're being sexual? Right. So it's just kind of like,
we don't really have much time typically, but
my idea of stuff is that there's intent throughout the day, but we just had this conversation too. If it's 7 o'clock in the morning, she's looking at me with googly eyes like, I can't wait to get at you later, we have a whole day. Right. And we don't know what that day is going to look like. So by the time we see each other, maybe at 9 o'clock, all of that stuff can kind of be out the window. And it's like, I could have had a great day and be like, hey, remember 7 o'clock this morning? What's up? And she's like, I remember, but no. And it's like, well, shoot, what did I do? And it has nothing to do with me. It just has to do with the day just took something additional out.
My client was unhappy, or I spilled coffee on my dress, or I was late, or I was stuck in traffic, or I was whatever, and it just took me out of the mood to do that. I'm like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing can happen with me. Because,
but then sometimes it's intentional, though, like to make sure that you keep that feeling throughout the day. Shout
out to Hennessy. I picked up the bottle. I thought it was my drink. I'm not drink. No, I'm lying. I am drinking this now. I mixed it with the orange juice.
Okay. He wants to have a sponsorship from Hennessy.
So. I'll take a sponsorship from Hennessy. I don't even drink Henny like that.
Oh, and we forgot to mention earlier, we are kind of in the process of getting.
Yeah, we can't talk about too much. Some brand ambassador sponsorship type stuff going on. Like we said, shout out to people who are watching this and spreading it. Yeah. Like, there's some traction and some opportunities that are being presented that we're incredibly grateful for. Yeah. I'm incredibly grateful for her because she's been pushing and doing so much. Once I do these videos, I just go to sleep and I just never look at them again. No, I listen to them and I look at them now because I really want to kind of see and hear what you guys hear. So we can try to do better as far as, like, when I'm listening, I'm like, what do I get out of it? And I'm the one that said, I'm like, did I get something out of this? Did I learn something? Did I like how it was said? Would I say it differently? Yeah. So it's very important. So just a shout out on that level.
So anyway, back to what we were talking about. It is about keeping the intent throughout the day. Like, sometimes you can make the effort to keep that going. So, like, little text messages and, like, just making sure, like, you send something, whether it be a, like, sexy quote or something that you see, or, like, whatever, and you just send it to him just to keep it so that it's in the front of your mind too, so that if you're having a crappy day, it could potentially okay, I just need to get through all this, and then I can have some bow chicka wow wow with my husband, and it'll make me feel better. So, so sometimes that works too. So, what?
I didn't know that's where that was going. But yeah, no. So it's just whatever time you have, you try to make the most of it. I mean, sometimes, look, I'm gonna get very candid. I'm gonna get very candid right now. Just keep lube everywhere. Just keep lube because you don't always necessarily have time to vroom vroom and rev up and warm stuff up. Like, just keep lube everywhere. Everything will work itself out after that. When you have the opportunity to take a day, you take a time, take a night on a getaway, do it and make the most out of it.
Yeah. I know. Sometimes we don't make the most out of the times that we have.
And don't drink too much.
Oh yeah.
That's good.
That too. That's me as well.
Once again, but just whatever time you have, try to maximize it. If you know you only got 15 minutes, quickies are good.
Yes.
Quickies are good. It's not good all the time because sometimes you want the slow burn, you want the intensity, but quickies are good. Especially if you have kids, you have a busy lifestyle, so don't turn your nose up at quickies. Do whatever you can to kind of stay connected. And sometimes it's fun. Sometimes it's fun to be like, we only have a little bit of time. Let's do it. Every now and then we have situations like that where it's like I don't know why I'm geeking out. I've been drinking too much. But I'm like, every now and then there's moments like that. And I was like, it's fun to be able to say, we only have a finite amount of time. What can we do in this amount of time? Yeah. But it's also really good to be able to plan out a night. Plans don't always go as expected, but it's really good to be able to have that time to really connect, to really touch each other and feel each other inside and out, just mentally, physically, spiritually, all over and stuff like that, because you need that decompression and that reconnect.
Yes. All right. So next question.
Do you want to do this one about boundaries?
I mean, we kind of already touched on that a little bit.
I don't.
You need to have clear boundaries and rules as to what you're going to, what your relationship is going to be. Because some people aren't as strict on some things. Like, they're more comfortable with certain things than others.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch boundaries too much because I'm more of the out of the bounds line person, but it's not something that really has come up with us.
Yeah.
So how do you both feel sexually as far as security and feeling satisfied over time?
Okay.
I'll start with this one.
Okay.
With me, we had this conversation right before we started this too. Like, mind you, it's almost midnight. So,
it's past midnight.
Whatever, Keisha. So close to midnight. All right. But no, what it comes down to is just like we're typically always satisfied sexually. The security, we just were listening to the Ellises, DeVille and Kadeen, the Ellises. They have a podcast, Dead Ass Podcast. I just started listening to it. I watch their stuff on YouTube. I love them. We might have some kind of video link or something like that within them, but I just think that they are very transparent, a lot like us.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's just like the sex, we're satisfied, but the sexual conversations sometimes loom over us. Like, literally, we were supposed to finish this podcast like 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
And we're just getting to it after midnight because it became this long, drawn-out thing.
Right.
It's my fault. But it became this long, drawn-out thing because I felt like we really need to get to a point. I told you guys, I don't like getting on here and we're not okay, and then we come and spew some stuff at you. I think it's BS.
Yeah.
I think that if we get on here and we just start talking to you guys and we haven't processed something, then we're not crap. We're not giving you anything to really grow off of and go off of because we're not doing it ourselves. I like to walk it like I talk it. Walk it like I talk it. Walk it like I talk it. Anyway. But I just want to make sure that we're connected on that same level as well.
Yeah.
So as far as sex and sexual stuff is concerned, yeah, we're satisfied. As far as security, I think that a lot of times I make Faith feel insecure or unsecure because it seems like I have my sex threshold. It seems like it's like I'm not getting enough and I'm not satisfied with that amount. And it's not so much that. It's more so the fact that I just wish things translated from how I know she adores me. I know she loves me. But how she's very deadpanny and very stoic-y sometimes. So like I don't know if anybody's ever like saw somebody like say they want you, but it's like I want you. Would you like to have sex with me? Now it's not quite that bad.
I was gonna say, it's not
but
like
it's
that.
like
You're making me look bad.
I can't. I think it's more so that if I was like, hey, like, what's up? You're like, sure. And it's like anybody that knows anything about anything, sure is not a definitive answer. Sure is like, I accept this. So it's like, all right, well, do you want the wing, the breast, the leg, or the thigh? And it's like, all we have is thighs left. So do you want that? Sure. It's like you don't have a freaking choice. Yeah. So you say sure. It's like, but if you had the option, you're picking the breast. You're picking the breast.
But it's.
I'm picking the breast. Anyway.
It's more like, for me, like, he's the only person that I've ever had sex with. So it's very much about, I'm happy because it's all I know. So I've never had more, I've never had less. It's always just been this. And it's like, it's really good.
I'm an unlockable character, though. You haven't unlocked all of the character, and
It's really, really good. I'm always happy. It's always like not to get too graphic, but mind-blowing sometimes.
But I don't know this. I mean,
you do know it.
Sometimes.
But it's kind of one of those things that I'm not. I know it's gonna happen again. So it's like if it doesn't happen for a day or two, I'm not like totally devastated that it hasn't happened because I know it's gonna happen again. So
that's a very interesting take. I never really looked at it like that. Like maybe you're just like it's gonna happen, and because you went so long without it, it's not. That is a very interesting thing to kind of keep in the back of my mind.
Yeah, I was like 26 when we got married the first time. We only were married the first time for a year. Then we were divorced for 3 years. I wasn't having sex then. And then we've only been back together now just over, 3 years now? So it's not like I've had a long time of my life, a very short amount of it, I've had sex. So.
That makes sense. I get it. But for me personally, I wish you expected more out of me sexually. I want to unlock these other characters. I really do. Like, not literal characters, but it's just like there's levels. And I'm just like, Saturday, like, hey, I ain't got to work tomorrow. I ain't got to work tonight. Like, and she's like, well, I do. So stay with that. stay at the level you're at. And we're good. Like, we're good with that.
So, all right. So we can go on to the next one. And I think we only have time for one more for this show.
Where's? Oh, hold on.
Did you get out of it?
No. How often would you like to have sex?
He wants it every day, all day.
No. I could deal with something sexual every day. I don't necessarily want to have sex every day because I'm busy too. I'm tired too. Like, I have a high standard for myself. I don't want to give her no half behind. I really had to remember I was on the podcast and not just talking candidly in life. And I'm just like, some half behind penis. Like, but whatever the case may be, like, I want to, and it's something to be said about taking a couple of days off and then getting back to it.
I would like to have it 3 times a week and then with a spattering of other things. Yes.
That
So at least 3 times a week and then a spattering of other things mixed in.
That's intriguing. 3 times a week. I don't know. I would say 4. I would say 4 times a week and once, twice a day.
Okay.
We're still young. This kind of stuff ages me. I'm robust at my sexual pronouncement. That's made it sound like something totally different. I don't know. Please don't take that the wrong way. But I'm just like, I'm not as old as I think sometimes. I'm like, I'm only 33, only 32. So I'm just like 3 times now. It's like by the time we 40, what the heck is it going to look like?
Well, I said, like, that was just like and I didn't mean, like, it could be more than once each time. But I would like
Denzel point.
And then a spattering of other things. So technically, I kind of said the same thing that you said.
Say spattering. I don't know
like it could be other sexual acts other than just like a big thing. So.
But not too big.
So it's just one of those like.
You can't drink and do this. Well, no, we're not going to answer that question.
All right.
Let's end on this one, just because Well, maybe we won't end on this, but we'll say, what do you define as cheating?
Well, anything that you have to hide from me. Yeah, literally.
Wait! So there's another question here we're not going to get into. Is that cheating?
Technically not, because I know about it.
Okay. Okay.
But anything you feel like you have to hide from me, anything that you don't feel comfortable talking to me about, that you have to hide, you have to lock, you have to anything that you don't feel comfortable talking to me about.
I don't really think about cheating like that. Like in regards to her. Like, I'm not saying it can't happen. But what I'm saying is I really don't think about it, so I don't really know how to process it, and it really just comes back to me and just how I deal with stuff. So I really wouldn't know unless something was exhibited where I'm just like, okay, this is. I won't want her talking inappropriately to somebody. Definitely no pictures or anything like that.
Yeah, because it's not even just physical stuff. Like he just said, pictures and stuff. Like it's not even just kissing, sex. Like that's obviously cheating to me. But it could be as simple as going on a date with someone else, nothing happens. You just pick her up and take her to the movies.
I don't know how I would necessarily feel about it, depending on what it was, because we don't necessarily share the same enjoyment with certain stuff. So it's like it would really, like, if she had a male friend and he liked Star Wars and she wanted to go see the Star Wars, I don't know what I would do, because I would like. And we just talked about this. If I had a female friend that watched horror movies and was like, I'll go with you. Like, I could go to a movie with a female friend and watch horror movies.
If I know who she is.
Yeah, and I was like, we have to. If she's my friend, she got to be her friend too. And I was like, that would be. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't. But
that goes along with what you feel comfortable talking to me about.
Right.
If you feel the need that you can't tell me that you're going with her to the movies, that's the problem.
Right.
But if I know, okay, that's cool.
So pretty much anything that you can be transparent about is essentially not cheating. There's levels of inappropriateness that might be involved that's not cheating. But, I mean, cheating is pretty much whatever two people decide. Society can't tell you what cheating is. It's pretty much what you decide. There's some things that are overt, and then there's some things that are covert. And the subtleties of cheating for different people mean different things.
Right, definitely. Because sometimes I know some people who will not allow, their rules in their marriages to not allow someone of the opposite sex to be in the car with them. So I couldn't take someone of the opposite sex from a work outing to their I couldn't drive them home unless he was in the car too. I
never thought about that, but I mean that might be a discussion further later in time. I definitely know if it was later at night or something like that and I was working with somebody late and I took them home, that could possibly be but that's a discussion. That's also something I'll probably think about doing in the moment and not necessarily be like, all right, it's 11, 12 o'clock. Hey, I took somebody home, do you care? Because she's probably asleep at that time anyway. But then the next day I'll be hey, I took certain soul home, and everything's a discussion. Yeah. All right, so hey, we're going to be signing off this podcast. Look, we are so grateful for everybody who's continued to be with us. We're excited to start season 2. There's going to be changes over time. Just we got our new little background and stuff like that. Yeah. So thank you. This is Justice signing off, saying keep your faith strong
and maintain justice. Bye.
Bye.